Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. English News Edition. Here are the top stories. Financial accounts of public institutions on the agenda in the plenary session. For the international news, India becomes the third most affected country in the world. Hello, welcome to our newsroom for having the news in details. Under the leadership of the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mohammed Ali Mohammed, and with the participation of the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, ministers and all parliamentarians, the national representation held on Monday, 6 July, the second public sitting of Parliament in its extraordinary session for the consideration of the following 7 standards. Law number 70 AN 1980th L approving the financial accounts of ONAID for the financial year 2017. Law number 71 AN 1980th L still approving the financial accounts of the National Social Security Fund CNSS for the financial year 2017. Act number 72 AN 1980th L approving the financial accounts of Djibouti Telecom for the financial year 2017. Act number 77 AN 28L approving the financial account of the Djibouti International Hydrocarbons Company SIDH for the financial year 2016. Law number 78 AN 28th which approving the financial accounts of the International Oil Company of Djibouti for the financial year 2017. Act number 83 AN 2080 80th L approving the financial account of the Electricity of Djibouti for the financial year 2015. Act number 84 AN 2080th approving the financial account of the Electricity of Djibouti for the financial year 2016. The overriding theme of this agenda concerned the financial health of the parastatal sector. As Mohammed Ali Mohammed, the Speaker of the Parliament, recalled, the exceptional nature of any extraordinary session is linked to the content of its agenda, which is imbued with the accountability of public institutions and companies. In view of the importance and scope of the above-mentioned agenda, a sustainable and rich debate took place in the hemicycle between one in hand to the intervention of the deputies in answers of the ministers on the other hand. In his capacity as coordinator of government action, the Prime Minister intervened with a view to providing technical and financial information on the issues raised by the audience. At the end of the discussion and following the adoption of the above-mentioned text, President Mohammed Ali Mohammed closed this second public sitting of Parliament. We will now proceed to questions from parliamentarians and answers from government members on the bills on the agenda. Let's listen to them.
I would like to know how long it takes to fill a tank. What is the global folding to be submitted? What is stored and how many tanks are available to supply our country? I have a question for the Minister of Communications. Telephone and internet networks are difficult to access in other regions. Mr. Minister, to tell us what strategies are and when your department intends to do something in the short term, of course, so that this situation can be resolved. Thank you. The financial account for the CNSS, they said that on the road to Venice, they borrowed 60 billion. 5 billion will catch the road to Venice. A bit of the road to Venice exists. What happened to that hospital, Mr. Minister? There are a lot of trainees, namely the nation. When is it necessary to regularize those people? The question is, when will the company have its own fund? When will the state stop punishing the company?
Now the answers from the members of the government. Let's listen to them.
Qui a parlé de la station de Hadagala.
Who said anything about the station being evaluated? He's got a point. It's 850 meters above sea level, so you feed the city Djibouti from these water towers by gravity. So how long does it take to fill up? Once the city was said to be able to carry water from the mountain to Djibouti by gravity, it takes a day. The number of reservoirs there are, first of all, there are discharge reservoirs along the way, but the reservoirs that supply the city of Djibouti are at PK 26. That's 8,000 cubic meters. That's 4 tanks. Each one is 20,000 cubic meters a day. 20,000 cubic meters. In this case, it's 80,000 cubic meters a day, as Djibouti city receives 40,000 cubic meters a day in 2 days. If there are breakdowns on the right or left side of the days, it can supply the city of Djibouti from the reservoirs. You should know, Mr. Congressman, the site has been identified. It was identified a long time ago, and the contract was awarded, except that the contract was awarded for 2 contractors at the same time. Therefore, there is a dispute. We are in the process of resolving these disputes with my colleague, Minister of Labor, and we have done very well and we have put an end to the dispute, and the work will begin very soon. That's right, it's covered by the fault site. The 3G existed, but only the locality has grown and there are many more inhabitants. So we will have to follow this evolution a little bit so that we can strain into 3G, and that's in the program here. Even before the end of this year, it will be paid back, and the coverage of the locality will be good. There's a team right now. You can see that we are working on tweezing on a tower of Djibouti Telecom to be able to place DDT reservers so that the whole region can benefit from DTT. As I speak to you, these technicians are working on those pylons right now. Trainees who are trainees by definition. It is determined over time. Only spend 1 year as a trainee throughout the administration in Djibouti for the administration. I have said it very strongly here. As far as the administration is concerned, those who have been trainees for the past 3 years are, I would say, you hear me very well, as fictitious employees. They are fictitious jobs. When you are a trainee, you are not appointed by you or simply by the department, but normally it has to come from a process, a transparent recruitment policy that ensures that you go through the competition and have a decision to be recruited as a trainee. So that's when you're a trainee and you remain a trainee for 1 year and 1 year only. Intern, we don't have it. He doesn't get a blanket when he's here. If he's a civil servant, the first year or if a trainee, he's covered. But the trainees you're talking about are the fictitious ones. No, we have to legalize them. We need every ministry, every department to fight to have them legalized. If they exist, it's a fake problem. It exists for you. The second thing, unfortunately, I think you never have it, is working on a budget. You don't say you don't move forward like the counts in the Amending Finance Act. That's going to come your way. All budgets have been cut, but the 10 million has already been cut. We have, first of all, with the International Islamic Society, a framework agreement with Djibouti Arabia, which was signed by the finance. I think that the international company is in a good financial health since then. It's true, there is a fluctuation of prices in 2015 and 2016, that said. I will explain here that the cable company too pay dividends on the state. The state is the main shareholder of these public establishments, the steel of countries. It's not easy. We have to retouch the whole logistic chain of the distribution of refund products and petroleum products, storage, importation, but also national distribution companies, tanker trucks, but also station managers, and finally our citizens who pay at the pump price. This year, as you know, we have had problems with the 19 May pandemic. We are trying to manage. We are trying to work with the pricing system. But the international cable company, it works to have. It's not easy, an import tariff on Mamba's oil products so that our citizens do not suffer. You know very well that the last 2 months, if I'm not mistaken, the budget is there. There has been a decrease in the price of the pump, and you know that very well. So we are still working on it. And one thing you should know is that the selection of countries will be reworked throughout the chain, inshallah, with the same budget. Thank you.
For his part, the Prime Minister, Mr. Abdulqadir Kamil Mohammed, has completed the members of the government to provide details on some projects, especially regarding the national coverage of needs. Let's listen to them.
Je pense que maintenant vous avez eu les réponses pour dire que les...
You've had the responses, so there are places, perhaps, where other networks are coming in and building. But for the most part, the telecom networks cover the whole country, especially in the capital, even though all the countries are working to put up towers. Now, so many times there's several places in the country, but I would also like to remind you that the UMP had demonstrated its ability to govern the country on several occasions. That we are there by the will of the people.
The Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office, Mr. Dagib Abdullah Kamil, chaired this Monday, July 6, 2020, at the People's Palace, a meeting of the platform of Secretary General. In addition to the Secretaries General of Ministries, the Chief of Staff of the President of the Republic, the Director of Cabinet, the Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister attended this meeting. In his introductory remarks, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office stressed that the items on the agenda of the meeting are dictated by the political current events, but also the need to strengthen the coordination of inter-ministerial technical work. It was also an opportunity to discuss the normative work, the exchange of COVID-19, and finally the grievances of the population during the President's tour in the region. The first point concerned public administration and how best to ensure the cohesion of the administrative apparatus, the coherence of decision-making centers, and the concordance of legal rules. There were intense exchanges with the Secretary General for Health on how to deal with the epidemic and to highlight the continuity of public service during and after the pandemic. In this respect, the intervention of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Health allowed rich exchanges with his colleagues on COVID-19 and its consequences. Finally, in view of the political importance, on the third item on the agenda concerning the tour by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Margeli, to the regions of the interior, the Secretary General of the Prime Minister's Office invited the Chief of Staff to the Presidents of the Republic and Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister to summarize the salient points of population grievances. On this last point, the Secretary General of the Primacy, Mr. Nagib Abdullah, said that it was necessary to inquire about the implementation of the commitments to the President of the Republic. This is a highly political and strategic issue after the tour made by the President in the regions. This tour has mobilized all components of the population who addressed directly to the head of state, who did not hesitate in this exercise to provide appropriate answers. He also noted the relevance on accuracy of requests to be registered by the public services. The grievances of the population addressed directly to the head of state must be the subject of in-depth analysis. Those that concern questions relating to the general interest must be rigorously followed up, since they highlight the responses provided by the public services. Thus, the responses to these complaints will initiate a vast structural reform project. We can anticipate, among other things, the strengthening of the decentralization of public services with the management of roads, highways, or civil protection, as well as the situation of health and education infrastructures. Now let's listen now to the introductory word of the General Secretary of the Primacy, Mr. Nagib Abdullah Kamil.
Il y a un adage qui dit qu'il n'y a pas de situation
There is an adage which says that there is no situation, there are only men in a hurry to make our administration work better, to work and to propose work that is done upstream, that we will do upstream together with the different services, whether it is the legal service or the personal service or other, or the financial service, to prepare the taxes to come before arriving at interministerial level, and of course going to the Council of Ministers before the President of the Republic. Working upstream on a text, as they say, it would be better for everyone, and study it for 2 or 3 weeks. That's why there was a circular from the Gratitude who asked that the text be presented at least 2 weeks before going to interministerial level, and also to consulate between different secretaries general, different legal departments, etc., so that we could have time to see the text beforehand, to process it and bring it to an interministerial council for discussion, but above all between the ministries already, and then work between sectoral ministers and the Prime Minister's office.
It was at the Entrepreneurship Center this morning. The Minister of Economy and Finance, Mr. Ilyas Musa Douali, sponsored a new project called Exceptional Depreciable Cash Credit, whose main objective is to mitigate the effect of the crisis induced by COVID-19 on small and medium enterprises. This new mechanism aims at providing exceptional bank financing the companies whose cash flow is negatively impacted by the COVID-19 health crisis. This project will play an essential economic role covering small and medium-sized enterprises. It is an essential solution for securing companies, which is a major source of financing for economic activity. It is a guarantee that covers 75% of the amount of credit granted. The annual rate negotiated with all banks in 4.25%. This guarantee will give the banks that signed the partnership agreement on 8 September 2019 a solid mechanism to quickly and easily finance the companies concerned, in order to enable them to cover current expenses that cannot be postponed or suspended by the latter. It should be now recalled that the launch of this project undeniably reflects the real support of the President of the Republic and his government to enable small and medium enterprises or industries to overcome this difficult stage and thus guard against an unprecedented economic and social crisis in our country. The director of the Guarantee Fund, Mr. Awad Mu'ti, said in his opening speech that this new project is an exceptional device, strengthening the state's support to credit for SMEs and SMIs. It will be provide companies with the financial stability they need in this period of recovery. Let us listen now the words of the governor of the Central Bank, Ahmed Usman.
Que nous avons connu ensemble.
You have a track record that we have experienced together since the first measures we put in place for the continuity of operations of the banks in the marketplace, the coordination of health measures to physically preserve our employees, our colleagues, and all the measures we have, and after many meetings to try to save what we can save. has been national. A huge effort is being made to provide the necessary resources and guarantee funds so that they can take on a significant portion of these risks. With 75% of the negotiations in 2 years, you have helped to get good terms. The community also intervened in this vehicle, which was a vehicle that benefited from everyone's efforts to ensure that companies facing these difficulties did not get out of hand.
Let us listen now. This time, the intervention of the Minister of Economy and Finance, Mr. Ilyas Moussa Dewale.
Comme vous le savez, a eu des conséquences dévastatrices.
This crisis, as you know, has had a devastating impact on our economy and on this fragile economy. I'm not only talking about the formal sector, the informal sector had also been hit hard. The government has not failed just 1 second to try, at least as much as possible, to be at the side of the local operators. It is that there is something to be done with regard to the population. We have had fruitful meetings, debates, and exchanges on the current situation. We have had a good picture of the consequences of this crisis. A few more tools in response to this phenomenon have already been put forward in the crisis-specific guarantee, a product for which we are meeting today. But there are also other measures taken by the government of Djibouti, in particular in close cooperation with the governor's central bank, to try precisely to ease credit repayment conditions for all those businesses that have experienced difficulties. It is also providing support from the state on easing conditions for banks. Taxes have been paid. We have also had measures to support employers to try to partially contribute to the losses throughout these measures.
The speeches were followed by a signing ceremony between the director of the Guarantee Fund and the senior representative and executive of the local banks. This will help to revive the economy and promote a clear improvement in the conditions of access to financing for the recovery of SMEs and businesses affected by the crisis will need to get through the Cape. The exceptional support from the state is intended to allow, in a context of economic turmoil and increased default risks resulting from the current crisis, to stabilize the level while helping the private sectors to regain its former strength. Now, a very important virtual meeting took place on July 1st, 2020 between MENFOP and its partner. The meeting was chaired by the Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, the Minister of Communication in charge of Post and Telecommunication, and the Director of the UNESCO Regional Office. Once the first case was declared COVID-19 in Djibouti, the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training proceeded to close all schools in the country on 19 March 2020. The ministry recalled MENFOP's strategy to ensure the continuity of learning and thus mitigate the devastating effect of a pedagogical rupture that was inevitable. Televised courses, about 168 weekly sessions for 6 weeks for all levels, television courses from private Arab schools, radio courses, about 60 sessions per week for all levels. The e-learning and Moodle platform have been activated to allow students to benefit from pre-recorded courses. The Classera platform was added in collaboration with Alesco. The Moodle platform enabled the ministry to organize the end of training exams for the student teachers, adopted booklet for students in rural schools, bilingual schools, a virtual classroom for high school exam classes, and for the School of Excellence. The ministry insisted in the action to come, such as the passing of the BAC back 2019-2020 in August, with the respect of the protection measures of our students and organizer of exam. In addition, the start of the next school year promises to be special in more ways than one, which is why my department is preparing to allow a smooth start to the school year where students are in a healthy and protected environment, where school users are reassured, he said. The ministry stated that this virtual meeting of partners is one more opportunity for us to share our experiences to go further in the response we must give this unprecedented situation that has led to the total cessation of classroom learning for students. He concluded that sharing and the willingness to adapt our teaching methods will bring us closer to the dream of living no one on the sidelines. Our commitment to a better world through education is at stake. Now, we have learned the death of the late Suleiman Omar Ahmed Berjif last night, Sunday, 5 July 2020. The deceased Suleiman Berjif leaves behind him 3 widows, 6 children, and 5 grandchildren. He was a driver at the Lota General Trading Company in Djibouti and was known among his peers for his generous and brilliant personality. He is the paternal uncle of our colleague Mohammed Abdullahi Omar in RTD civil servants. We extend our sincere condolences to the family and loved ones of the late Suleiman Berjif, who implore Allah to welcome him to his eternal paradise. Ameen. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raj'un. Now the Osman Gedi family is actively searching for Ahmed Hassan Osman, born on 15/12/84, who left the family home the day before yesterday, wearing a white-black T-shirt with a strip, black pants, and present mental disorder. Anyone who recognizes this description is asked to contact these numbers 77849699 or 77641359 or at the Central Police Station. Moving on to the international news, India is now the third most affected country in the world by the COVID-19 pandemic. In terms of the number of contaminations, authorities are registrating nearly 700,000 cases of coronavirus. This is it for this edition of 9 p.m. Thank you for watching us and have a wonderful night.